What's up, guys? Matty here, mixmastermastersound.com. Today I'm going to try doing a live stream here. It should be interesting because this is the first one I've ever done. I thought it'd be cool to go over my template for what I use for all my mixes. And if you guys got any questions about it, we could go over those too. So let's get into it. All right. I'm going to put this over here so I can see any questions you guys might have. One second, guys. Okay. So here is my session. Hopefully you guys can see it. Let's see. What's up, Royal Beats? We got a couple guys in here now. That's cool. All right, so this is my session. I mix in Pro Tools. I mix in Studio One too sometimes. It just depends. You know, a lot of people send sessions in Studio One, and I have a template that's pretty much just like this in there. I know a lot of you guys follow me because I use Studio One, and the reason I've been using as much and kind of moved back to Pro Tools a bit is because it's a lot easier for me to work in this program. I was having a lot of issues with third-party plugins not working and things crashing and stuff. And after a while, it's a little difficult for me to mix at the amount of songs I try to mix every week and still keep the work output up. So what we did is I switched back to Pro Tools. And it's been working out better, although I do miss Studio One. But I still mix in Studio One, so if you have Studio One sessions, you can send them. Anyway, the top of the channel, I work everything in the edit window. I rarely go to the mix window. I mixed everything on the edit window. And at the top, I have AB, which is metric AB, which, if you guys don't know, it's adaptive AB. It's good for rough mixes, so I load all my rough mixes in here, and I can click back and forth. The way I have it set up, I can click back and forth on my Avocet here and hear the rough, and then gain match it so the level's the same. And that's really important because everybody loves their rough these days, so you got to make sure that you're staying within the same level as the rough, and not straying too far away from it. And also you want to make sure you're beating the rough. You know what I mean? You want to make sure it sounds better than the rough, and you're not losing the energy from the rough, because a lot of times, your mix can sound better, but the energy of what they had in their rough mix could be pretty different. So, it's good to have this or have something where you can constantly hear the rough mix and not stray too far away from it. So that's set up there, and it goes out output 15 and 16, which is digital 1 on my Avocet. The DAW is the DAW on my Avocet. So I got 2 switches, and then digital 2 is my computer if I want to listen to something on Tidal or something like that. Mix bus 1, mix bus 2. I've gone over this in a video recently. I use 2 mix buses. This one's undone right now. I'm slowly pretty much not using Ozone 4 anymore. I'm kind of sticking to this mix bus, but I do use it once in a while. So you see both of them come in the mix bus, and then they go out to my limiter, which is here. So the first thing it goes out to is this insert 1112, which is my analog chain. That consists of the dangerous backs into the better maker. That's pretty much it nowadays for analog chain as far as that. It's also going through the dangerous master, which is barely used and actually on Reverb if you want to buy it. All that does is you can switch out different hardware units. As I'm using less hardware these days, don't really need it. So I'm getting rid of that, and I have a couple new pieces coming in. But that's what this does. So that goes in there, and then BM limiter is my limiter, which is the dangerous limiter. So I just tap this. I actually just use it as a clipper, and it's just a dB at most, just to get a little more edge. And then I use the output of this to go into my dangerous converter AD+, which is my D to A. Sorry, A to D. That's my A to D. So I use this to push into that if you need to get louder. Sometimes clipping my converter sounds a bit better than just using a limiter. A lot of times I'm using both. Right now the limiter of choice is Ozone 9, and I use it. I start it in modern mode, but I switch it to transient usually as the mix goes on. Just transient takes a lot of, what do you call it? Timing, so it delays everything. So I stay on modern, although I've been checking out this Weiss limiter a bit, and of course FabFilter's limiter is really good too, which I use sometimes. That then all goes to my clarity, which is the TC Electronics clarity, and then just dither thing to dither down to 24-bit if I'm at 32 before I bounce. So that's that. All of my stems, maybe we should start down here. My mix, all my stems go to a certain amount of mix buses. So I have my main music one, which is here, and I have a bunch of plugins that I can turn on or off. This is kind of the default, which is the studio rack with just the J37, a little bit of warmth. The Mu X, which is part of my Mic DSP APB, that's on there, and then the Sidewinder, which gives a little bit of width to the music. Then my bass is the black box into EQ1. And then I have another channel of the bass. So all the basses come here. You see bass, which is the Mu X for distortion into an R bass. So this is kind of a grimy, kind of distorted sound that I can use. And sometimes I need it and sometimes I don't. So it stays muted when I first open a session. All that goes to my bass all, which has this Elmu, which is also part of the APB stuff. And it's just a bit of saturation. It really doesn't do a whole lot. But it gives it a little bit of a sound. And so both of these go to this bass all where I can turn my bass up and down. And a lot of times I'll add more plugins along the way to these, but this is just how I started off. Next one's high percussion, and that is also got the Mu X on it, which is just adding a little bit of compression, a little bit of saturation for some warmth. Then I got a bunch of plugins that I may or may not use on that. J drums are from my man Jason Joshua, which I don't really use that much, but it's there. Sometimes I'll switch these on. If the drums just aren't hitting right, I'll try it out, and it sometimes works really, really well, and sometimes doesn't. It's not quite my sound, so I don't always use it. Then I got this kick parallel, which is for parallel kicks, and then my drums, which is the chicken head with a little bit of NLS, and to the VMR, which is just basically using the virtual channels. Little Neve Pre black box, and then the latest addition is this one, which is the Parallel Aggressor, which is really dope. And I'm still playing with it as far as like, this is kind of the starting setting, but I've been actually taking this off and cutting this one down for the heat and adding the heat in. So this is really cool on drums. I've been digging a lot. That all goes to drum and bass, which has some options, and then this Gold Pre, which just gives it a little more warmth. Lead vocals, this is a bunch of old plugins, and I don't actually use them anymore, but they're there if I want them. And then a bunch of reverbs and sends that I'm ready to go. So I actually just have these on here to grab. If I want a Q3, I can grab it and drag it to the vocal file. Lo-fi if I want it. CLA vocals, which I use from time to time. Studio Rack, which has a bunch of different things on it. DS and Suze. So I can just grab all these and drag them to whatever folder they are, or I'll actually just process the vocal on the bus. Just kind of depending on what kind of vocals I get. That goes to lead all here, which has the Air EQ, and then the Mu X once again, which isn't always on. And I also actually, a lot of times, I'm going out to this 5 and 6 here, which is insert 5 and 6, which is this weird kind of unit I got recently called the Analog Stage. It's by Hendy Amps, which makes some really good high-end equalizers and compressors. That's actually one of his first units they're made. You can't buy them anymore. But basically all it is it's a couple tubes and a couple big-ass transformers, and it just gives this kind of, and I hate to use this word, and I'm actually doing a video next week about it, analog warmth. And it kind of just warms things up, and it takes off a lot of the edge that a lot of home recorded vocals have. So it just gives me a little bit of saturation and warmth that can sometimes take off the edge, I guess is the best way to describe it, of a vocal that's been recorded not great. These are all my effects. They're set up with a bunch of different things. I got a wood room, which is the 7th heaven. I got an 8th note delay if I need it. 3000 is the Eventide 3000, which I use from time to time. A quarter note delay micro, which is just the micro shifter with some EQ and stuff. Hot Smudge, which is one of Jay's plugins, sounds. This is another verb thing I got into a delay, into just kind of based on one of Jay's things. It's a verb that I like. Vox Spread, another verb. A Neo Verb, which is the Isotope one I use a lot. And then Valhalla, which is just a Valhalla. You can never have enough Valhalla. And then this last one is Hall, which has a bunch of different halls I use. And it usually just defaults with the RMX. I like this RMX a lot. So those are all my effects, and that all goes to one of these, either drums, music, or all Vocals. And all effects come to all Vocals. And here, just for kind of shits and giggles, to be honest, I have this SSL on here. It's the 9000 version. It's cool. You can crank up this thud sometimes and get a little more warmth or a little more aggression if you want it. It actually works better on the 4000 version, but it's just there for that. Now, one last thing. My all drums and my all music go to this all instro. So I can use all my instrumentals, all my instrumental music really quick here. Or if I want to do like a weird filter or something just on the music, I can do it and it won't affect my vocals. And so all that goes to the mix bus, which is where we started. So that is basically it as far as my session goes. Let me see if anyone's on here. Got a couple questions. Okay, I was going to buy this from Royal Beats. Let's go to full camera here. I was going to buy the Dangerous 2 Bus Plus. Do you use any summing mixer? I don't use a summing mixer anymore. I had the SSL Sigma for a while. It was cool, and it gives a sound. For me, the sound isn't worth the hassle. So a lot of times, I mix like 8 songs a week usually. A lot of times nowadays, even more so, people want things turned around real quick. Like they want their mix, then they want their revisions the next day. So taking more things out of the analog chain that aren't really making a big difference is fine to me. And I found that the summing stuff is, I can get the same sound with just going out a stereo pair for my mastering chain. Or now that I have the APB, I can get some of that sound with that. So I got rid of the summing. I don't think you need it. If you get it, it's cool, but I can guarantee you it's not going to be as cool as you think it is in your head. And I only can say that from experience of buying a couple different summers. It's a cool sound. It gives you a little bit of width, a little bit of depth, but it's not going to change the game. It's not going to be like some crazy distortion unit or something that just makes your mixes open up and be completely different. It's not going to be like that. It's just going to give you a little more, like maybe 1%. And I don't know if that's worth it now. I feel like you can almost get the same thing using some of these Brainworks plugins and, like the 9000 where they have all that TMT stuff, and switching and using that, and you'll be just as good, if not better, because you don't have to deal with all the conversions and thousands of dollars you have to spend in order to do summing correctly. So that's that. Next question. Matty, you're back on Pro Tools. Yeah, man, I'm back on Pro Tools, and I kind of said it in the beginning of the stream, but part of the reason is stability. And let me get some water. I had some issues towards the end of Studio One 4.5 into Studio One 5, where the stability just fell apart on me personally. I don't know about you, but I use a ton of third-party plugins, and what was happening is the system kept crashing, and I have to do a lot of recalls. Like I said, I mix about 8 songs a week. I have to do a lot of recalls, and there were some times where I'd open a session and it just would not open, just won't open. And I'd have to shut down all the plugins and go one by one and try to figure out which plugin was bugging it out that week. And it was random. And it got to the point where, I'd have to do, someone would email and say, hey, I just need an instrumental for the mix we did last week. No problem. Should be a 5-10 minute, process. It would be an hour and a half of me trying to figure out the plugin that was having problems. And after that happened 5 to 10 times, I just said, I can't work like this. It drives me crazy. You know what I mean? Like, you're trying to mix a song, you're trying to stay creative, you're trying to stay in the process, and you have to do a quick instrumental bounce, and it just ruins your day, and you're so upset trying to find the plugin that's messed up. It just derails your whole day. I don't have time for that kind of issues. I probably could work through it, and it's something that's on my list, is to work through what's going on with Studio One. But I went back to what I know and what was super stable, and that's Pro Tools. It may not be the shiniest plugin DAW in the world, and it definitely has its issues. The finance of owning it and running it being one of the big ones. But it's stable, man. It just always works. There's no crashes. You know what I mean? There's crashes, but every program crashes, but it's always working. You know what I mean? Instrumental, no problem. 5 minutes, done. So that's kind of why I'm back on Pro Tools. And, maybe I'll go back to Studio One. I still do mix in Studio One, at least a song or two every couple of weeks, because I have a lot of you guys use it, and some of you guys have me mix your songs, and so it's no problem to mixing it. My template works in both programs the same way. There's no sound difference. It's just workflow stuff, So that's basically that. What's your opinion of Bitwig Studio? I've never used it. I just don't have time to be trying out new DAWs all the time. Studio One was kind of a huge leap when I went to it, and it is an awesome DAW. I still think it's better than Pro Tools. And if you guys aren't using like a whole lot of all these third-party plugins that I tend to use, especially because I get a lot of people who send their mixes with them on, Studio One's awesome. If you're a producer, I would totally produce in Studio One. I wouldn't touch Pro Tools. Pro Tools is a great mixing program. That's it. It doesn't really do production great, but it does mixing really well. But you can also do just as good mixes in Studio One. So the whole DAW thing's stupid. It doesn't matter sound-wise which one you're using. It's like, what do you work well with? You know what I mean? So that's kind of that deal. Can you show APB favorite plugins? Yeah, sure. Let's see, what is it? Bitwig doesn't crash, runs plugins, sandbox. Yeah, I gotta check it out, man. I just don't know if it would have all the editing stuff that I need. As far as RX7, I could, if I don't have any audio files in here, but I have this Stream Deck. If I want to RX7 something, I just hit a button and it brings it up and does it. There's no audio selected, but it's there. So if I need to click something, boom, I hit the button. So I just have this thing, especially since I started working with this SoundFlow stuff, Pro Tools, it'd be tough to beat it at this point. What up, A Sharp? First live stream, my man. I just showed everyone my template. All right, so what was the question? APBs. APB stuff, let me see. Okay, my favorites? Damn. Elmu is cool for, so this is cool for saturation. Can give it some more. I just use it for this. The limiter's cool. I don't really use the limiters, but I use that one a lot. I use this Mu-X one a lot. You can see, as you saw in me going over this stuff, this can do a lot. It's got a saturation, compression, and then some EQ. The saturation is sick. I love it. It sounds really good. And so I use that a lot. And then on vocals and drums, I've been using this Chicken Head quite a bit. And those are the main ones I use. I also use the 73 one. What is it? Yeah. This is great on vocals too. There we go. The C673A. I'll do, if you checked it out, I did a review on the whole thing. You can hear all these guys in action. So check it out. Next question, tips on how to stay organized when you're dealing with a large project with multiple MIDI stems and tracks. I don't really ever get MIDI stems. I always say, I just mix. So I tell clients to send the stuff as audio. I don't want MIDI. That's a whole nother nightmare of me having those plugins too. So I don't do that. Staying organized. I mean, if you checked out, if you come in here late, check out this template, because if you can have everything going to a certain bus, it really can help you stay organized that way. Also, folder tracks, they have them in Pro Tools now. If I have like a big R&B song where there's 60 tracks of vocals, I'm totally using folders, because a lot of times it's like 10 vocals for one little part, you know what I mean? So folders can help. You get the sound right, put it in a folder, close it. It's just one track. So that's a good way to do that as far as staying organized and stuff. But yeah, folders are great. Buses are great. And VCAs, I don't use them, but some guys use them and have some good luck with all that stuff. Let's see. What else we got? What is the first element you focus on in a mix? Kick and bass, vocals. What's up, Sweden? That's a good question, man. I'm a drummer from, that's where I started off as a drummer. And I always think drums and vocals are what drive the music. So drums and vocals are the most important thing in a song. Always, almost always. And so I usually start with drums and bass and get the music going. And then I'll start bringing vocals in. And then a lot of times I'll get all that going and then mute the music and just work on the drums and vocals. That's something I learned from Jay, actually. And it really does help sometimes because that's the most important stuff. It works for me sometimes and doesn't sometimes because when I bring the music in, it throws some things off. But yeah, drums and bass are usually the first thing I go to. I just want to make sure those are hitting. And once that's hitting and you have your bass, your bass and kick are one of the hardest things to manage and one of the things that can make a mix either great or terrible. So once you get that locked in and working well, you're almost halfway there. And then it's just about getting a great vocal mix, So another thing to do is once you get your vocals in, mute everything and just listen to the vocals through. Because there'll be a lot of times where you hear a bunch of stuff in there that you could eliminate with, proper vocal editing. Let's see. What do we got next? 5 things in my studio I can't live without. The speakers. I got ATCs here. A good DAW, which is Pro Tools as of right now. Honestly, man, this Stream Deck and SoundFlow has really kind of changed my life. I honestly, this saves me about an hour a day, and I'm not kidding. So that'd be on the list. That's number 3. My Avocet. This thing just sounds awesome, and the workflow with it, like I said in the beginning, I have my DAW, then my rough mixes, which is number 2, and then the studio computer, which is, Tidal or YouTube or whatever you want to listen to. So that's number 4. And number 5, all my plugins. I don't know. Maybe the APB, if it has to be a unit. Okay, next question. Thank you. And yeah, I'll go with your advice and we'll invest in the AD Plus instead. Yeah, man. I mean, this converter stuff and analog stuff isn't really as important as it used to be. I sometimes mix all in the box and my clients don't even know the difference. And I'll mix the same artist and they can't really tell. I use analog because it can get me places quicker sometimes. So my mix bus just has that sound that I like to it, and I turn it on, my analog bus, and it sounds right to me. And so I can get to my destination quicker. It gives me a little bit of width, and that's what I like. So yeah, that helps, but it's like 2%. I don't think it's changing the game. It's also fun, man. I like analog shit. It's fun to play with. It's fun to hook up. It is exciting, and a lot of times me getting a new plugin or a piece of gear is just to keep things exciting, honestly. Like it changes the sound, and like this analog stage, I got it on a whim, and it's actually become like a piece of my arsenal, and it actually really works well. I'm sure I could find a way to do it in the box though. So analog stuff, it will give you maybe another 5% depending on what you get. And this is my opinion. I'm sure there's others who will think differently. But at this stage in the game, plugins sound so good that it's like, man, it's 5% to me. Maybe 10, but probably 5. So get the stuff if you got money to get it, but you don't feel like you need it to make professional records. What you need is to, be a good engineer. Like that's what, I've been doing this over 15 years. You know what I mean? Like it's hours of training, of mixing a song every day. That's what gets you there. It's not about the gear. So you just got to practice, man, like the 10,000 hour thing, whatever you want to call it. It's about doing it over and over and over and over and over again. The gear is all secondary. Okay. Does the UA Neve 1073 really help vocals? I don't really use it on vocals, so I don't know. I mean, think about it. It's a 60-year-old, piece of hardware that's limited to 3 bands. I'd much rather use a fab filter if I need, mostly, first of all, when I EQ, mostly only EQ I do is cutting. I don't boost much at all as far as EQ goes. I can do better off with saturation and compression for that kind of stuff. So I don't think you need the 1073 to do vocals. If you're recording, yeah, get that 1073. Matty, what's your UAD vocal chain on vocals? What's up, y'all too fun? I don't really use UAD plugins for vocals. I'll show you guys my chain lately. It's this new one I've been playing with, which is the Weiss EQ. The filter sounds better than Fab Filter to me. And then it's the Chicken Head. This is just what I used actually on my last mix I just did before I went live. Then I use my Chicken Head compressor. And then what did I use? My favorite, the Fab MB. And I have my default 404 start. And I can manipulate the mid and the higher mid of the vocal with this, depending on how hard I hit the compression. And if it's too sizzly, I can take some off with that. So that's almost like my EQ for vocals. And then also I've done a bunch of cleaning and filtering here too. So there's that. And then it will follow up with either the de-esser and soothe, okay? And then depending on where I am, once I'm there, then I might add this guy for a boost. So this is actually boosting saturation, not so much EQ. Or I'll use the, UAD one, this guy. Right here. I've been using this on vocals a bit. I love this 32, and I actually have an Avalon 747. It's on the floor right now. That has to go to the shop, and I'm going to be actually using that on vocals outboard, just for this 32K here. And I'll give you even, here's my preset right here. This is how I start. It's a slight compression and a boost, a little bit of boost here and there. That's it. That one's really cool for vocals, man. My man, Sign Factory, 21 snaps. 21 snaps. What's on the back wall? Insulation. I'm in a situation where I need to upgrade my iMac, but want to upgrade what's under the hood because when I mix, it buffers after a while. I have a 2012 iMac 8 gig. Yeah, man, you need a new computer with like 16 to 24 gigs. I would wait a year. I mean, if you waited this long, I know they got the M1 Max coming out. You might as well wait for the new processor, but you got to wait for Pro Tools and everybody else to catch up. What do you recommend? That's what I recommend. Why Pro Tools the most? Because it's stable. Rewind the video, check it out. I talked about that. Thanks, y'all. Too funny. Yeah, I like the video, man. Recognize the John Brandon design. Just curious on the rear of the room. Yeah, the John did design this room. You are right. I can't really turn the camera right now. I'll do a video soon. I've been meaning to do it. It's just a pain in the butt to do the room. But definitely John designed it and he did a great job. Ray, to aim for upgrading computer. Yeah, we went over that. 8 gigs is, no, you need more than 8 gigs these days, guys. I'm sorry, you just do. Unless, I don't know, I haven't tried out these new M1s. Maybe 8 gigs works with that, but I doubt it. How long on average does it take you to mix a song? That is a great question. It really depends on what the song is. If it's a 10-track song, I can mix it in a couple hours or less. I'm usually pretty good. I'm usually at a really good place in a couple hours, and then it's just tweaking stuff. That's years of experience too. So don't think, a lot of that too is the way I have my session set up. I can push it in a certain ways. I know what it does. So my template might not work for you, but it's all about finding a template that works for you. I got a lot of my template ideas from Jay, and then changed all of it for the most part, and kept what I like. So one cool way to learn is use other guys' templates and grab what you like from it, and then you start building upon your own template. It works pretty well. How long an average? Okay. Have you heard of the, yes, I have heard of Surfer EQ. It's an amazing plugin. It's great for 808s. It's great for vocals when there's like some of the low end stuff that's just hard to get out and it's not working so well. Surfer EQ is great. Now, another one, Neutron, I think it's either Neutron or the other one, has the Surfer thing in it now. So, and I do use Neutron. That's another vocal EQ I use a lot, the Neutron. That has the Surf EQ in it now. I don't know if it's Neutron or the other one they got, Nectar. It's one of those two. It has Surf built into the EQ now, which is even doper. So you don't necessarily need the Surf EQ if you have that stuff. How are you liking the Mic MPB-16? I love it, man. I really do actually dig it. I'm still getting to know what I love about it, but I'm getting more comfortable using it. I have a Focusrite interface, but want to extend my I/O to start using outboard gear. What do you recommend? I don't know, man. Depends what your budget is. I got a Lynx here, Aurora Lynx. They're kind of pricey though, but they sound really good. Super transparent. I think the bigger Focusrite stuff's pretty good too. Don't use Scarletts though. You guys got to get better than Scarletts. If you don't have much money, man, get one of these UAD things. Don't get the Scarletts. Gaming with a mix, what should I start with, EQ or compression? I don't know. How often do you mix records recorded on 2 tracks? My man A Sharp. I try not to do too many 2-track beat mixes. I probably do maybe one a week. I feel like, I'm starting to charge enough where it's like, you better send the stems. Recommended to start with. As far as mixing, I think rewind the video, it should be on there. Loved your Tico compressor review. How hard are you pushing the character knob usually? Oh yeah, Tico. See, man, there's so many freaking plugins. It's hard to keep up. I've been using that one a lot too. Let me pull that up. It depends, man. As far as the character knob, it depends what it sounds like, That's the thing, man. There's presets are great starting points, but it's nothing compared to your ear. That's the starting point. So what I'll do is I'll put Tico on. I usually use this for vocals. Compress it till it sounds too compressed, bring it back, right? Then crank this. Bring it back into, does it sound good or sound bad? How's it sound here? How's it sound here? Crank it. Does it sound good? No. Or does it sound good? Yeah. Cool, I'm done. Right? We're using our ears here. So just remember that on all these plugins. What is your take on Acoustica plugins versus the rest of the world? Man, they sound good. I use Avalanche. Actually, I use Amber too. And I use Jade here. And as you can see from my boy Joel, one of the 21 snaps, gave me this little setting on my drum bus. So we got the gold pre here into this little EQ. I know that's funny, but that's the way Joel said it, and that's the way it's going to be. And then I use a couple of Acousticas here and there. I use the Aaron, I think it is, on the mix bus sometimes. I love their stuff, man, but you can only use so much before things start going haywire, so you got to be careful. Matty, please use a screen recorder next time. Would be great to see your screen. Well, I got it, man. If you rewind the video and check this move out, I'm moving in. There. If you don't want to see my ugly mug, you can look at my screen. Let me make sure it's on the screen. Yeah, we're on the screen. All right, sorry. Where are we? All right. Man, this is fun. What is your take on Acoustica? The screen recorder. We're back on the screen, fellas. Gaming, when you start mixing vocals, what should you start with? EQ or compression? What does it need? That's what you start with a vocal. What does it need? What does this vocal need? Is it dynamic? Is it too dynamic for the song? Do I want it to be more in front of my face? then it needs more compression. Is there a bunch of muffly stuff and like low end that is making the vocal sound muddy? I need to EQ that out. You know what I mean? So that's what it needs first. I mean, usually it's like, I usually start here, filter it down a bit, just to get into the low end stuff you don't need. Then a lot of times, especially with a lot of recordings at home, you're working in this area, this 500 area, 200 area, where there's a lot of buildup and proximity effect. Then the other area that you find trouble with is 2 to 4K, where there's a lot of like harshness. So, you know, like, okay, what am I fixing? Is that an issue? Or is the low end an issue? So yeah, maybe I'm gonna EQ first. Now my vocal's not feeling quite in my face. It's kind of drifting back and forth. Let's compress it, you know what I mean? So that's what you start with first, whatever the vocal's telling you it needs, you know? How you slow a 2-track beat down in Pro Tools. What's that? I don't do this much because I'm not usually on the production side. There's something called, one of these guys I'm sure can probably answer it better than me. Varispeed or something like that. Focus 202, good enough for recording. I don't know, man. A lot of my friends say that Focusrite sucks, the Scarlett. I don't know if that's the same thing. Unfortunately, I have, and I'm not sounding like an a-hole here, I have high-end converters. I haven't really looked at the newer kind of entry stuff. So, I don't know, to be honest. Better Maker EQ or Pultec EQ, both sound great. Pultecs sometimes have a little more character. Better Makers are a little cleaner. I never trust my ears because my room isn't treated and I have KRK rockets which are not flat at all. I need to fix that. Yeah. Before any gear, converters, anything else, man, you guys have to have a great listening environment. Even if it's not great. KRKs aren't all that bad. I suggest strongly that you get whatever this damn program is, SonarWorks. SonarWorks. That is worth more than any plugin you could buy. It will help EQ your room up a little bit. It's not going to change the world, but it will make it sound a little more lined up in your room. I have a little higher end version of SonarWorks, even in my super well treated room, which is called Trinov. And here's my graph. I mean, I'm still like 3, which is not a lot. This is actually a great sounding room. But I still have issues, you know, 3 to 6 dB, 3 to 5 dB, either way, you know what I mean? So this fixes the last kind of 25% I couldn't get because this room's too, like, this room's great, but it's still not big enough, whereas it should be, so the bass waves can go back. You need a really big room in order to really make the room be the room. So these EQ programs that you can buy to tune your room can help get you another 10 to 15%. So check those out. My man A Sharp. Time compression expansion for changing beat per minute on 2-track or multi-track beats. There you go. That's the one. Top 10 plugins right now. Man, I don't know. They're all, I don't know. That's too long of a list right now. Hey, Matt, do you have monitors tuned via SonarWorks or something else? Probably just caught this late. I know you have some crazy monitors, but do you still tune them? Yeah, like I just said, I use the Trinov to tune them up a bit. Had a Scarlett for years, didn't like the conversion quality. Once I started getting analog, got a Lynx Aurora last year, and what a difference. Yeah, man, I mean, shit. Excuse me, that's game changing. Yeah, I got the Thunderbolt version, but you know, it's all the same thing. So cool, man. That looks like all the questions. Do you use Melodyne or Revoice? I use Melodyne and I use Autotune. Those are the ones I use. I tried Revoice. I couldn't. I don't know. I didn't like the way it connected, man. It's like you had to like switch out of a program to go into it and then load it, and I honestly didn't spend enough time to probably get it right, but I got Melodyne and it works, and I hate tuning vocals anyway, so why learn another program to do something I don't like doing? First pieces were the Silver Bullet. Ooh, the Rupert Neve Portico MVP. Those are awesome, both of those. I never tried the Silver Bullet. I had the Neve, but you know what? I don't really use compression with mastering, so I sold it. You'll notice, I mean, you guys follow me long enough. I sell a lot of gear. I don't keep it around unless it's really, really dope or like really, really works for my workflow. Saturn or Decapitator. The new Saturn is awesome. Decapitator is still dope, but it's a little old. What do you think of Pro Tools first? I've never used it, man, but if you can't afford the regular Pro Tools, which I know they are taking people's money like crazy, use it, man. If that's all you can get, then get it. And dude, you know, like just because I'm using Pro Tools, like I said earlier in the video, every DAW sounds the same. I know there's guys who think they sound different. Maybe Fruity Loops because they have a built-in limiter that no one knows about. But other than that, they all kind of sound the same. So if, you know, Pro Tools is kind of crazy. They're charging you $30 a month just to use it. If you want to buy Studio One, which I think is probably the best DAW out there, if you're not using a lot of third-party plugins, grab that, and it's a lot cheaper. You don't have to pay monthly, and you can do everything and more than you can in Pro Tools, especially if you're doing producing and, you know, making beats and all that stuff. Why did you get rid of the MIDI fader controller? I actually still have it. It's over in the corner. I never used it. Once I switched back to Pro Tools, I didn't really use it anymore. I actually got the soft tube up today, which I haven't used in a while. It's fun to play with sometimes. How to change from 440 to 432 in Pro Tools? Shit, I don't know, man. I have to Google that one. I've never had to do that in 20 years. I never had to do that. Thoughts on SSL clones such as the Stam SA4000 and Audioscape? I had the Audioscape for a while, and like I said, I stopped using bus compression for the most part, or I mostly just do it in the box now, because speaking of great plugins, this Unisum sounds just as good as any analog compressor in my opinion. So it's great. And I had the Audioscape, and that sounded great too, and so does the UAD one. Like I said earlier, man, I think it's, you know, we're talking 2 to 5% with analog nowadays. These plugins sound so damn good. So yeah, man, I think that's about it for today. It was cool, man. It was cool to do this live stream. Maybe we'll start doing them more. I was maybe thinking about doing them every other week or something. I don't know. I'm trying to find ways to connect with you guys more, because doing videos all the time is fun and all, but it doesn't seem like, a lot of it's just reviews because it's easy to do. Trying to do more videos where I'm actually showing you guys how to do things as opposed to just doing reviews, because it gets kind of boring and, you know, no one cares. So what do you do with the outboard? With outboard, I do what I said I do earlier. Nacho's here. Nacho is a 21 snap as well. Nacho is a genius for all you guys that don't know. He can make anything happen. That is the man who got me onto SoundFlow and has changed my life, and I am indebted to him for the rest of my life. And he is a freaking genius. Anyway, guys, that's all I got. Let's do this again soon. It was really cool to connect and just talk shop, but I'm out.